Engage. Sprints. Big clump. Drop your E's, boys. Drop your E's. Fucking beautiful.
Okay, so here we go. Next build in the guide, we're looking at the Damnation staff, which is in the cursed line. We'll have a look at the build first. So, different build altogether for this one. I'm going to go over the weapon first this time, just so you can see where the abilities tie into it. So we got Cursed Sickle. So it shoots a cursed sickle in the indicated direction, which flies back to your initial position. It applies a vile curse on any enemy it hits on the way. Curse deals 53 damage every 2 seconds and stacks up to 4 times. So it's a dot. And you can see it's pretty easy to dot up groups of mobs using that ability. Quite effective. For the W we have Armor Piercer. So a demonic beam shoots out in a straight line. All enemies hit take 240 damage, which isn't bad, and have their armor and magic resist reduced by 43 for 8 seconds. So that's where it gets really nice. Anything that reduces any resists, really, really good. Armor Piercer, it doesn't just affect one mob either, it goes right through the whole group, pierces them all. Excellent ability, again, focused on increasing the amount of damage that the whole group is doing to those mobs. Let's get down to the E. Now this is really nice. So Cataclysm. Create an area on the ground in a radius of 13 meters, which is huge, which deals 374 magical damage and reduces resistances by 70 for 6 seconds. So we're looking at another resistance reducing skill, which is really nice. I mean, you stack these two together, that's reducing by 43, this is reducing by 70, 113 resistance reduction. Really, really effective. The group's gonna do loads more damage when you add all that in. You know, if you factor in, as we looked at on the tank build, obviously the hammers, the Q on the hammers also reduces resistance as well. By the time you start stacking all of these things together, suddenly you notice that, you know, the tankiness of the mobs it's not a thing anymore, and you're cutting through them like butter. So W, that's the straight beam on the Armor Piercer, and there's the E. Look at the size of the E on this thing. Really, really good. So there's your Q. Throw your W. And there's your E. Really effective. So, let's look at some of the abilities on the armor. Number 1, Assassin's Hood. So this is a leather hood. Meditation. While channeling, all spells on cooldown will recover much faster. The full channel lasts 3 seconds and can shorten cooldown times by up to 15 seconds. Really effective. You're looking at, even with an omelette, still got a 25-second cooldown on that Cataclysm. So if we use that there, and then we use the meditation, you see how fast that's just recovered. You know, we're talking, it went through 60% of the cooldown before the channel finished, and then there we go, we're back off cooldown again. So really, really effective at keeping that E ability up, so you can keep every group of mobs resist debuffed on every engage. So when the blazing goes down, when the frost prison goes down, everything's debuffed into the ground and it just blows up. Yeah, so we're rolling everything together as we go. Royal Robe. So here's another one. These aren't cheap. Neither is the Damnation stuff for that map, but probably none of these builds are cheap. I'm really focusing on optimal, what I would call optimal and real farming groups. You want to make millions of fame. This is the way to do it. So, Magic Rune. Places a magic rune under your feet which strengthens magic abilities of you and your allies as long as you stand on it. The rune will increase cast speed by 10% and magic attack and heal power by 5% per second, stacks up to 6 times. So we're looking at 60% cast speed, 30% damage buff for anybody standing on that magic rune. Now just going back to the prism and the blazing staff, remember they're already stacking up with this obsessive burst. So we're talking 7% up to 8 times. What's 7 8s? My math's terrible. 10 8s is 80. Looking at, yeah, so we're looking at about 65% bonus from the obsessive burst. Then we're going to add this magic rune on top suddenly. We've got somebody wearing a Royal Robe, another 35%, looking at 95% damage bonus. We're starting to get into huge figures here. We're talking double damage over your regular dungeon group, so really nice. Passive on this one, aggression, bit extra damage for the curses. Those dots really helps just to keep the damage stacked up. Boots, there they are. Trusty assassin shoes in almost all of these builds. Quick thinker passive for cooldown timers and refreshing sprint to bring those cooldowns down. So just as a quick demonstration, so we're dropping that E with the long cooldown, then we're meditating to get the cooldown down. That's finished. We can pop the sprint. This is basically off cooldown. And there we go, it's off cooldown. Now that we're talking, that's supposed to be a 30-second cooldown. That's almost spammable, you know, by the time this is finished its effect and the resist debuff's worn off, you basically got it back again. So really important. I've got a Limehurst cape on at the moment. I forgot to swap this over when I came out of town. To be honest, the curse really doesn't need a Limehurst cape. I would probably just throw on something like a Thetford cape on the curse. Really short cooldown, a little bit of extra AoE damage here and there, stack up on top of your dots, certainly won't do any harm at all. Let's see if I can get a group of mobs to show you here. Yeah, definitely got a group of mobs, so we'll curse them, armor pierce them, throw down the E. Probably not doing this justice at all, because my curse strike is 0. And that's your general. So when you go in a group fight, you want to be dropping the magic rune as well. So if the mobs are here, these books are the mobs, you know, the tanks stacked them all up. You're throwing in your skills before you drop down your W and your E. You want to be dropping this magic rune, and you can see this is stacking up the damage. So there we go, and we're at full stacks. And then everybody's going to drop their damage. So back to when we talked about, we're looking at a total now, all the builds put together, we're looking at 95% damage bonus when we all drop the E's on the mobs. Big plus. And then if you think on top of those 95 damage bonus, we've got like over 100 worth of resist debuff. Mobs don't know what hit them. Really strong staff. Complements any group really well. Cooldowns works really well. Again, little on the pricey side, but well worth it if you've got a good group.
Engage. Sprints. Big clump. Drop your E's, boys. Drop your E's. Fucking